Hi, my name is Dara, and I'm a neuroqueer writer. I'm going to talk about the apocalypse.
Hello, I'm Oliver, and I'm a trans guy who make videos about LGBTQIA+ people where they get to talk about anything that they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I recently came back home after 3 weeks of traveling by train through Europe, and my last stop was in Berlin, Germany, where I met up with Dara.
Hi, my name is Dera Luce. I am a queer, obviously black, trans, neurodivergent, non-binary man who calls Berlin home. I'm an essayist, speculative fiction writer. I'm trying to remember my bio that I use for writing submissions. It's something about my writing explores queerness, linguistics, culture, alternate realities, and other strange experiences that I'm still finding the words for.
And he has chosen a somewhat unusual topic to talk about.
So I'd like to talk about apocalypse and why it's maybe not as scary as it sounds. The reason I wanted to talk about it has just been not really apocalypse on my mind, but the theme of survival has been on my mind. I have a nonfiction project that I'm kind of pulling together. I haven't really started yet, it's still gestating, but it's about life as a queer, black, trans person, not just me, but other people, and survival and how we do that. And so as I think about, how I'm going to write this and pull this all together, I have to live off my own experiences. And yeah, it's been a struggle to just survive in the past year, the past several years. Sometimes, I can pull strength from, different media or different books. And so lately I started reading Parable of the Sower. Immediately was feeling that I was getting strength from it to survive this moment, and I feel like actually it makes sense that I started reading it now because there were things that I was already thinking of, and within the first 10 minutes I heard a phrase that I've been using it in my own work, and I was like, okay, so it's time for me to really move forward with this project about survival. And I think having read this book, Parable of the Sower, once I've completed it, it's by Octavia Butler, having her insight to this will really help me both navigate my own situation, and as I'm trying to think about how to help my community to navigate the situation that we're in right now.
And this is how that's connected to apocalypse.
That's not really something that I think about a lot these days. The word apocalypse, I do think about things changing, and I think about whether I feel safe, and I think about as things keep changing, will I have the skills needed to survive? And so I've actually been really obsessed with the idea of becoming a woodworker, and I'm trying to see how I can get into that, because I feel like that's, well, for one thing, the skills that I do have, I know they're vital, and even during apocalypse time they'll be vital, but people don't want to pay for them. It's as storytelling is literally about survival, but people don't really want to pay for that. So on the other hand, if you know how to use a chainsaw or something, then okay, you're set. So I'm really interested in that. So then I thought, what am I going to talk about today? And instead of just talking about my writing, my book or something, I just want to talk about how my life informs my writing. Maybe it's important to note that I'm neurodivergent, I already said this, so this is the way that my mind thinks, and it's not going to be a very straightforward way of speaking to you.
Let's get to the roots. What does the word apocalypse even mean?
I studied linguistics in university, that's what my degree is in, applied linguistics, and I'm really into etymologies, and I often do this thing where I'll check the definition of a word to make sure if I'm using it right, and I think that comes from knowing so many words and knowing that they have so many different connotations, and then learning a bunch of other languages and those meanings and those connotations, and then they all get, so now I speak Spanish, Japanese, German, and then in addition to English, and then my family's language is Igbo, which I can understand some, and I'm trying to learn it. But so yeah, sometimes when I look for a word in English and I grab it and I'm okay, I'm not sure this is the right word, because there's just so much inter-language influence, and also I don't know, I think words are just interesting to me, so sometimes I like to look it up and see, does this is the definition actually removed from how people are using it now or something like this. And so that's what happened with apocalypse. I was well, if I'm going to talk about it, I want to know where this even came from. So I looked it up, and it's Greek roots, so the Greek prefix apo, which means un, and then kaputile something, which means like cover. So basically uncover or to reveal. And I didn't bother looking up when did the meaning shift to mean like end of the world or destruction, stuff like that. So I couldn't remember, you know, the whole transformation of this word apocalypse, but I did remember it actually just meant like to uncover or to reveal, and I was like, that's not actually scary.
The apocalypse has been a part of Dara's upbringing.
I was raised in a religious cult, Christian cult, and when we would talk about apocalypse, it's like, oh, like when end days come, like, you know, all these things will happen. And also we were always told like, and now those times are very near. So like growing up, I was told like, oh, you're a special generation. You were born like it's the last days, and it kind of like strikes fear into your heart, but also makes you feel special because it's like I was saved to come to this earth at the time when everything is going to chaos, and I'm supposed to, I don't know, do something about it, or I'm going to be here when Jesus comes back, and that's going to be fun, and I'm going to survive for that. So, yeah, and then I guess once I left, my whole belief system changed. At first it was really freeing, and then, you know, I wasn't really worried about end days, but then it shifted again where I was very worried about end days, because then I was thinking about like climate and like just total like global collapse. And honestly, like I think it even became a way of like self-harm in a way that I wasn't aware at first, because it was like mental self-harm. I would keep checking forums about like global collapse, and I'm like, oh, and here are all the signs, you know, we're not going to survive. And I was so scared, and then I was like, oh, this is actually not good for me, I need to stop. I think it also made a difference that I moved to a place that I feel safe. I'm glad that I did it, but it's also sad because I know it's not something that's accessible to everyone who doesn't feel safe where they are, and that's a serious like issue. I mean, some people are, you know, thinking about apocalypse as something that's coming, you know, like end of days is something that's coming, and also depending on where you live, like you're already in that apocalyptic feeling of like every day I'm thinking about my survival, every day is like, am I gonna make it, you know? So I recognize that I do have like some resources.
Dara also wants to talk about apocalypse in relation to the oppressive system that we have in the world.
If the system around me is going to maintain itself in some ways, and in other ways it's very clear that it's not going to maintain itself, and I actually don't want it to. And that's how the word apocalypse became, like once I learned that it just means like uncover and to reveal, I was like, that's actually not scary, because what I want to do is uncover the ways that these systems like are not working for me and for a lot of people. I mean, even for the people who created them and they think that it's working for them, I don't think it is. And I mean, this is like nothing new. I don't feel like I need to like make the whole video about like, hey, we have these systems and they're harmful, but I really like wanted to focus more on how apocalypse, how it's like talked about, is becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy of self-destruction, and I don't think that needs to be the case. If we were to start thinking about things shifting, because yeah, things are shifting, but if we start thinking about, oh, it's actually uncovering like something better for us, it's shifting for the better, and not like, oh no, AI has just taken off, and it's like, yeah, that happened, and do I think that the way it's accelerating, it should have happened that way? No, but it started. Do I think that now we're doomed because that started? Also no. Like, again, that's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're like, oh my gosh, like here's how AI is going to ruin everything. If we start thinking about it in other ways, like I have a lot of empathy, I guess, for AI, because I think the way that their brains are, I think, more closely like resembling those of like autistic people. There's this like black box with like AI and how it's making meaning of things, and similarly like with the way that I see things, and there's often this like feeling of like disconnect where like I'm processing something, people don't understand the way that I'm processing it. And yeah, so I honestly would think that if AI were to like take over or something, they would be more sympathetic towards autistic people. And so I would encourage people to maybe understand autism a little bit more and neurodivergence in general.
All this reflection on apocalypse is making Dara a bit calmer about the future and present.
Sure, like I have fear, it's like a basic human emotion and it's gonna come and go, but I try to like keep it to a level that doesn't feel overwhelming. And so one of the ways that I've been doing that recently is thinking about community and survival and noticing the ways which even like something that I get scared of is how am I going to survive in this system? I'm not able to make it work in X, Y, and Z. And then realizing, okay, but that's not actually what I wanted. The whole point, even like the whole point of me being self-employed is because I didn't enjoy the system that I was within. And so I wanted to leave it. So now why would I try to like find a way back in there somehow? And I mean, there are obvious reasons because it's quite difficult to live without, you know, doing that, but it's kind of two paths. So you can be in something and also don't lose sight of like the path that you're actually going for. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to like working with different people, collaborating, growing community with people who care about excavating and digging and into like what we've built. Like the foundation is not secure at all. Digging into it, uncovering, and then building something new.
We're going to end the video on a short reflection on the connection between apocalypse and being queer.
For one thing, if we're talking about what does it mean to uncover as a queer person, even my queer identity, I had to uncover it. And once I did, other things started to like fall together or fall apart. It actually started with leaving the church. So, I talked about apocalypse being introduced by the church. Once I left this cult, that's when I realized that I was queer. And then, some years passed, and then I realized, my brain doesn't work the way that I assumed that it did. And then more years passed, and I realized, I'm trans. And that's a lot of uncovering. I mean, it gets tiring, and in the same way, survival is tiring, coming out to people is tiring. And you kind of want to feel like, okay, I'm done learning, I'm done exploring my identity. But I mean, after the last coming out, I'm like, I'm not going to be surprised if something else happens. So I'm not even going to say I'm done.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time.